Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Dan and I'm here to bring you another FPL video. In this one we're going to be looking at my team selection ahead of Game Week 24. We'll be looking at all things Game Week 23, just how I got on, just a brief recap on that, transfers made and captaincy and so on. Of course then ahead of Game Week 24 we'll be looking at possible transfer options. I'll also cover off a sneak peek of what I'm planning for Game Week 25 as well. And of course we'll be talking all things captaincy, vice captaincy and bench options for Game Week 24. So plenty to go through today, guys. If you do enjoy the content, then remember to smash that like button below. But let's have a look first of all at how we got on in Game Week 23. So 79 points all out. With the -4, it does mean a net of 75. And it has meant, unfortunately, a slightly red arrow for me. I was starting the week on 117k. I've finished the week post subs, I believe, at 137k. So it's about a 20k drop. Now, I think there's a couple of reasons for that, really. Of course, we had Luke Shaw on the bench, unfortunately, 12 points that, in terms of effective ownership, when someone's going to score this level of points and essentially score a lot more than some of the differentials that I chose to go with, it's always going to be a bit of a difficult time to claw back the green arrow opportunities. So, unfortunately, has meant a red arrow, but all things considered, based on the punt that I took to go for Jack Grealish rather than someone like Mahrez, because I did have the budget to do so, I'm actually glad that the output has finished in this way. So yes, it's been a red arrow, but the budget and my team overall are set up very, very nicely over these next few weeks now. And we will discuss that when we get to the Game Week 25 transfers on why I did choose to go for Jack Grealish ahead of the more informed Riyad Mahrez. But again, to score 13 points or come away of those two games with 13 points being pretty much the most budget option I could have gone for in that City midfield between Grealish, Mahrez and KDB, I just feel like I've almost kind of, it's a small win, right? It's definitely a small win. So absolutely very, very happy with that output. Of course, Saka, absolutely phenomenal performance, 15 points. Who would have thought that, essentially, against Brentford and City? Of course, scoring more points, actually, in the latter fixture. Erling Haaland, another one to mention there. Of course, having the penalty taken off of him against Aston Villa by Riyad Mahrez. And of course, that can also, that's a if, buts and maybes. But let's face it, lots of people that brought Riyad Mahrez in did not consider him going to be number one penalty taker. I don't know if that's going to be happening moving forward, but I personally was very surprised after Erling Haaland has clearly said in multiple interviews how he knows which records there are to be broken. And of course, I know it's a team effort rather than individual, but he's absolutely got his sight on Alan Shearer's record. He's definitely got his sight set on essentially a target, and for him to have the penalty taken off him was a little bit surprising to not say the least. But of course, the captaincy meant that he still scored us 20 points. For anyone that triple captained him, I think they're going to be a little bit more on the sour end of the stick, to be honest, because that penalty not being in Erling Haaland's hands meant that they probably missed out on a potential maybe extra 5 or 6 points if you take into consideration him scoring it, and also then maybe some bonus points to add on as well. But that being said, I still feel like the captaincy decision was the right one to go with him. And then really the only other kind of unfortunate or possible negative in this team really was Estepinian. I mean, how close was he to scoring that goal against Palace? Of course, marginally offside, unfortunately. And then to not only miss an opportunity to score the points from the goal, he's also lost the points of the clean sheet, unfortunately due to a Robert Sanchez blunder. He just completely dropped the ball after what looked like a routine catch for him, and it was just an easy header for the Crystal Palace man to slot it home. So he lost his clean sheet. And again, going back to the Luke Shaw point, when you're playing somebody like Estepinian that's a lot lower owned and scores 5 points less than your first bench option that is more highly owned, you've got to anticipate, of course, that there's going to be some kind of red arrow. So a few things that didn't go in my favour this week. But to be honest with you, again, all things considered, a 20k rank drop in comparison to where I started before the World Cup is definitely a red arrow that I will take. Absolutely. So no other missed bench opportunities, with Bueno and Greenwood both scoring 1 point. Of course, I could have played Ward ahead of Kepa for 1 extra point, but that was never going to happen. So all things said and done, very, very happy with this game week. Then we can talk about transfer plans for game week 24. And to be honest, it is quite a short one, guys, because I'm simply just going to be rolling this week. As we get into the team selection part of this video, you will see that my team is set up in a way where I just don't think there's any need. There's no areas of concern for me. There's not really anything I need to deal with in terms of injuries or suspensions or anything like that. And rolling the transfer mainly gives me the best opportunity to get what essentially the strongest team I can with 2 free transfers in blank and double game week 25. It allows me to navigate it without any hits, and of course we'll get to that onto the next section here. So game week 25, if you have been a viewer of the channel of recent weeks and the live stream, then you'll know that I did share some future transfer plans, and this is the 2 that I'm looking at going with in the immediate future. So Fernandes can go to Mohamed Salah, and again, this is part of the reason that I actually went for Jack Grealish in game week 23, because by saving that little bit of extra money, I'm able to make this move by taking no hits whatsoever, and I'm also able to downgrade Luke Shaw to Tarkowski to free up just that extra little bit of money that I need to push Fernandes up to Mo Salah. So the fixtures, I think, are very, very favourable for Salah. I think it's an obvious captaincy choice as well for game week 25. I was glad to actually see him score in the Merseyside derby, as I think now this might give him a little bit of personal confidence. But of course, we also saw from a team perspective with Liverpool, there's certain individuals coming back now from injury in the likes of Jota. So I genuinely think that the goal threat is going to be a little bit higher by the time we reach game week 25. And against Crystal Palace away and Wolves at home are 2 very good fixtures. And I don't feel like Mohamed Salah is going to be easy for people to get to unless they do sell the likes of course, KDB, who is playing Bournemouth in that game week. So they've got a bit of a decision to make. Whereas for me, it's a blank player going to a double game week player. It makes the most sense for me. And I'm also able to navigate this week, as said, without taking any hits. Then we look at Luke Shaw to Tarkowski, of course, as a separate transfer. Luke Shaw, yes, I've got some value tied up in him, but he is a blank player in game week 25. So it's important that I move him on, I think. I would then have Rashford, Trippier and Estepinian on my bench as the blanking players, which I do want to hold on to, especially now we've had the announcement, of course, of Brighton's double game week. Estepinian easily could have become Tarkowski as well, but I just think it makes more sense to take the blanking player out. Of course, with Tarkowski individually, Everton are maybe a little bit of a gamble here. I don't necessarily see, I'm not confident in a full clean sheet across both of these games, especially in the second game of the 2. Arsenal away is going to be a very difficult fixture for them. But of course, we did see in the reverse fixture them win surprisingly 1-0. So who knows? Maybe they take some confidence from that. Maybe Sean Dyche just knows how to deal with them. And of course, now Arsenal are actually second in the league after yesterday's result. Of course, they do have still that game in hand. Maybe a little bit of confidence starts getting knocked out of them a little bit. So who knows? Stranger things have happened in the Premier League, so maybe we get a clean sheet there. But definitely the reason to bring him in is not only the value, but it's definitely that first fixture against Aston Villa at home. So very, very happy with these 2 planned transfers. Let me know in the comments below, though, what your routes are in game week 25 or game week 24 as well. Any benching headaches or transfer dilemmas, let me know in the comments below, guys, and I'll do my best to answer as best possible for you. But of course, then we can move on to how game week 24 looks like for my team. Defensively, I think I'm very, very sound. There is, of course, Kieran Trippier not in this starting lineup. He is the first bench option, which we'll get to shortly. But Kepa in goal against Southampton at home, Shaw against Leicester at home, and then Gabriel against Villa away, and Estepinian at home against Fulham. I think these are favourable fixtures. Once again, very confident in what my backline can produce. I'm really liking the look of Estepinian now. I just feel like he's impressing me week on week. I've had him literally since the World Cup restart. I put him in the potential, essentially just the possibility that Brighton may have had a double game week between game week 17 and game week 25. It hasn't actually turned out that way. But the consistent returns that he's been bringing of recent weeks have been absolutely great. So I'm really happy to own him. And I jumped on him a little bit earlier, I suppose. So I've had the differential points already for him. And I think definitely he would be a transfer that I would consider making for some individuals. Definitely post 25 at least. Maybe not this week because of the blank in 25. but game week 27 for the double, he definitely needs to be, I think, on people's radar. Of course, Gabriel, disappointing to only score the 3 points across the double game week, but I feel like a clean sheet is on the cards here against Aston Villa. And of course, Luke Shaw, after producing the 12 points against Leeds last week, I just don't feel like I can bring myself to benching him against that Leicester side at home. We then look at my midfield and how that's shaping up then next. We've got Jack Grealish, Saka, Rashford, Fernandes and Odegaard, which really does look like, an absolutely fantastic midfield five. Jack Grealish, I think, he's a little bit risky because we do have the UEFA Champions League fixtures coming back. And that does mean that maybe Pep looks at this Forest fixture as a slightly easier fixture and starts adding in a bit of rotation. Maybe we see Phil Foden start the game as he's back from injury and illness. We may see even Erling Haaland benched, for example, for Alvarez instead. But at the moment, the way that I'm shaping up the team is based on no press conference news or anything like that. I'm just going to essentially roll with what I think is the best starting 11 here. And then unless we get any news, I'm pretty much going to remain unchanged. But in terms of the midfield five, I think he is definitely the kind of the most at risk, let's say. But still happy to own him. And then we've got Saka and Odegaard against Aston Villa away, which again I think is a great fixture for these two. Hopefully their confidence doesn't get knocked too much in terms of now being second in the league with that game in hand. I think they can come back swinging. They didn't look disappointing against City, I must say. It was a bit of a brawl, but overall I still think that they should show a continued run of form. We then see Rashford and Fernandes in the squad as well, of course, against Leicester at home. We know what Rashford's doing at the moment at Old Trafford. Of course, I just expect that to continue, to be honest. I'd like to see a little bit more from Bruno since I've owned him, and I've kind of kept faith in him across these 2 game weeks, whereas some people did go sideways once again, or I say sideways, but almost reversed the transfer, right, and went back to KDB, for example. I'm hoping he can produce something ahead of my move out to Mohamed Salah in 25. And then finally, we've got my front 2 forwards that are completely unchanged in Harry Kane and Erling Haaland. Of course, Haaland, as mentioned, possible rotation risk maybe just because of the Champions League. I hope not, which of course would mean that I do trust the captaincy armband, or I trust him with the captaincy armband, should I say. But of course, Harry Kane against West Ham, I definitely feel like could also be a captaincy choice, which is why at the moment he just has the vice captaincy armband for now. But again, all things deadline stream will reveal what I decide to do. So feel free to tune into that later on in the week. But in terms of the bench, then finally, Ward, I don't think there's any chance I'm going to be playing him against Manchester United when I have Kepa against Southampton at home. Doesn't make sense at all, really. Trippier, yes, he could essentially sting me, much like Luke Shaw did this week as the first bench option. But I'm confident that, again, if Jack Grealish, for example, doesn't start the game or even make some kind of cameo appearance, potentially Trippier may come in for me anyway. So putting him on the first bench option, I'm happy to go with that route. And then, of course, Bueno looks like he's getting a little bit of a minute's risk for Wolves, so he comes into that second slot. And Sam Greenwood, again usually a cameo appearance for Leeds is all he's worth. So no real benching headaches there. That kind of Trippier option is maybe a little bit risky for the rank later on, but we'll see how it goes. Finally then, guys, that's how we've wrapped up for Game Week 24, but we will have a look now at all things Mini League and Content Creator League after Game Week 23 is closed. Of course, in the Mini League, the biggest thing to mention here is FPL Boo Boo, a very regular viewer of the live streams. Congratulations to you, sir, finally taking that top spot of the FPL Link Mini League. You are now 1,489 points, sir, so absolutely fantastic performance. 85 points this game week has put you 8 points ahead of Moses. And I think, like I said in the last team selection, I think Moses has held that top spot for quite a significant amount of time. So congratulations to you, sir. Other than that, in terms of the top 10, it's pretty much unchanged. But if you are interested in joining this mini league, guys, there is a code in the description below, as well as the direct link to join that for Game Week 24 and beyond. So feel free to do that, guys. And then finally, last but not least, we will just touch on the Content Creator League. If you're new to this type of content, this isn't actually a league that exists within the official game. This has come from a website called FPL Gameweek. Essentially, it takes a snapshot of all of the content creators across Twitter and YouTube and creates a mock league as if we were all competing against one another. And this is for anybody. So even yourself, you can see how you fare against all of these creators like I have done. And I'm currently sat 23rd in this mock league. And as you can see there, FPL Harry, FPL Raptor, some very formidable names across YouTube. Of course, Ben Krellin, the spreadsheet mastermind, they're in the top 4 there. There's some very formidable names across the FPL community here. And to be 23rd in that league, I'm very, very confident that I can hopefully push for a top 20 finish by the end of the season. And I think that will mark a very successful first content creating season for me. So I hope you agree. I'm sorry this section maybe comes across a little bit selfish, but generally speaking, this is also to showcase that you can also fare yourselves against all of us as content creators, I guess, by using FPL Gameweek's website. So I'm going to wrap the video up there, guys. Thank you so much for all of the support, comments, likes, everything that you do to support this channel. It really does mean a lot to me. Of course, if you are new to the channel and you've enjoyed the content, then do consider subscribing. It's completely free. And of course, I'll be by your side up until now and the end of the season to hopefully help you finish in the highest rank possible and win those all-important mini leagues, guys. Of course, if you did enjoy the content as well, smash that like button below, and I will see you hopefully in the deadline stream for Game Week 24 or another video very, very soon. Take care, guys. See you in the next one.